Many of us grew up watching The Brady Bunch, a sitcom about a blended family, but in real life, there may not be that many laughs when children are involved in second marriages. As one stepfather reveals on today's Dr. Phil show, take a quick look.
Kip, would you agree that the way you're handling this isn't working?
I agree that my attitude is wrong and disrespectful, okay? I'm not a mean or cruel person. I'm not. I'm really not.
There's more involved here than just you. You said, I want to build a new house, but I ain't doing it till she's gone.
Right.
How do you think that makes her feel?
And Dr. Phil McGraw joins us now with some advice for blended families, and there are a lot of them. Dr. Phil, good morning. Good to see you.
There are a lot of blended families, Chris. I mean, it's growing every day. There are 1,300 new blended families formed every single day. And there are now more families that are remarried, recoupled, than there are first marriages. So it has now become the majority of the marriages in America fall in this category.
You hear the constant numbers of the divorce rate being 50%, which is staggering enough. But like you mentioned, you bring kids in and the numbers that you just mentioned alone. What are some of the big hurdles, though, for blended families?
Well, here's the thing. When you get in this situation, there are three really big challenges that you have to face. Number one, if you are the step parent, what's your role going to be? I mean, how are you defined to the children? What are you going to be, disciplinarian, just a supporter for the biological parent? What's your role going to be? That's a big thing. Number two, you're going to face resentment because these kids, before you got there, the bio parent, undivided loyalty. They had their undivided attention. And here comes the new parent, the step parent. They are competing for attention. And so there is often resentment towards that person coming from the outside. And then there gets to be this conflict, number three, about whether or not you're going to discipline the way that the other parent wants to discipline the step parent. This can create a lot of conflict between the husband and the wife with the kids right in the middle. And that's why those marriages, they really don't have a great prediction in terms of how they're going to work out. A lot of remarriages and blended families don't work out.
But of course, you have some advice, and you say one of the first things you really need to do is acknowledge the challenge ahead, because it is a challenge, let's be honest.
Yeah, look, sit down and talk about this, right? I mean, the kids know that this is an awkward situation. You know it's an awkward situation. So sit down and say, look, this is tough for everybody. I don't know exactly what to do. You don't know how to feel about me. I'm not trying to replace your mother or your father, but I have married your parent here. Yeah. So this is tough. Let's just talk about it and see if we can come up with a plan.
Yeah, tip two, you say there's a time and a place to discuss any and all conflicts. What is that time and place?
Oh boy, it's not in front of the kids. Look, kids are smart, and they understand this divide and conquer business.
And they hear everything.
Oh, they do. They hear everything. The walls have ears. You need to go private with this, Mom and Dad, and come up with a plan that both of you can be excited about, but don't hash this out in front of the kids.
Yeah, and the complaining never really works.
Look,
it becomes background noise after a while, doesn't it?
There comes a point where you have to stop complaining and start asking specifically for what you want, particularly with the kids and with your spouse. Instead of saying, I don't like this, I don't like that, this isn't fair, this isn't right, be specific. What I need is this. And maybe they'll give you that, maybe they won't, but it's a starting place to negotiate.
When it comes to discipline, I think with parents alone, okay, just parents of their child, it becomes a good cop, bad cop. But then when you factor in step parents, how much more difficult does that make the situation?
Well, it's almost impossible. If the step parent is not involved before the age of 4 or 5, they cannot and should not be involved in the direct discipline of the stepchildren. They don't have the bond because you have to understand from the kid's point of view, this isn't their parent. This is their mother's husband or their husband's wife. It's just somebody that mom or dad brought in, and they don't give them the right to discipline them, so they're not going to acknowledge it. Don't try to be the primary disciplinarian if you are a step parent that got in the game after the age of 4 or 5.
There are some things you just can't change. You got to let it play
out. That's right.
Final tip, you say it's important to establish some personal relationships as well.
Look, and this is true not just with stepchildren. It's true with all of your children. If you've got 3 kids, step or otherwise, you need to have something that you do with that child that is unique to them, that you carve out for them. And I know with my boys, I had one that we played with a farm in the floor. We had little animals and we had a fence, and I didn't do that with the other one. That was this for this child. For the other one, he liked to bomb things. So we would get up on the balcony and bomb the farm. And that's what I did with him. We'd drop tennis balls on it and see how many things we could knock over. And that was special to each one of those kids. They need to know they've got something that is uniquely theirs.
The son with the farm wasn't too happy, but the other son.
No. Yeah, those animals looked a little worn after a few days.
Dr. Phil, great to see you. Thanks again.
Good to see you, Chris.
Dr. Phil McGraw, and you can see the entire episode of the Dr. Phil Show later today. Check your local listings for details.